Welcome. This is a session that we recorded on Monday over Zoom, but the Zoom recording did not come out in a very acceptable manner, so we're going to re-record this one and get it posted. So this one is The Eight Worldly Winds, a topic we circle around to from time to time. So welcome. Find yourself a comfortable posture that allows you to be relaxed and at the same time alert and aware. If it feels safe for you today, let your eyes close or just let your gaze drift downward and go soft. A bit if you're looking at nothing in particular and you're finding that entirely satisfying. So I'm glad you made it here today. Whatever you navigated to get through the door this morning, the traffic, the morning news, the list of things waiting at home, you can leave all of that just outside for a while. You've given yourself this time. Let's use it well. Take a moment with your posture. Let your spine lengthen, not stiffly, just with a quiet dignity. The way a well-made column holds its shape without any strain. Let your chin be level, let your shoulders drop. The way you set down something heavy you've been carrying longer than you need to. Let your feet rest flat on the floor, side by side, solid as a couple of old friends. And your hands, just let them rest in your lap or on your thighs, wherever they feel most at ease. And we turn to the breath. You don't need to manage it or improve it, just watch it arrive and watch it go. Like sitting in a warm room and watching the clouds move across the sky through the window. They don't need your direction, they don't consult you. They just move in their own time with their own unhurried authority. And, well, so does the breath. Breathing in, I feel the ground beneath me. Breathing out, I soften and settle. Breathing in, I am here. Breathing out, I belong to this moment. I want to share some material today about a teaching that is very old. It comes from the Buddhist tradition, but once you've heard it, I think you'll recognize it immediately, because it describes something we've all lived through many, many times. This is called the Eight Worldly Winds, a follow-up to last week's Going with the Flow. The idea is this. There are 8 conditions, just 8, that the world sends our way over and over again from the time we're old enough to notice until the time we leave. They come in 4 pairs of opposites: gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, fame and obscurity. Just roll those over slowly in your own mind for a moment. Gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, fame and obscurity. I'm guessing most, if not all, 8 of those words feel awfully familiar to you, not just as ideas, but as real lived experiences. Things you've felt in your body at 3 in the afternoon and at 3 in the morning. Things that have shaped the course of your life. The 8 worldly winds don't spare any of us. They don't consult our schedule. They don't make an appointment. They blow through on a quiet weekday in May just as readily as they blow through any other day. And the question the old teachers were sitting with, the one we're bringing to our practice today, is what do you do when the wind picks up? Here's the predicament they name so clearly. Most of us spend enormous amounts of our energy chasing 4 of those 8, the pleasant ones, the ones that feel like success and approval and comfort, and equally enormous amounts of energy trying to outrun the other 4. And the result is that our inner life follows the outer weather. When the good winds blow, we feel wonderful. When they don't, we feel miserable. Not much steady at the center. What the old teachers pointed toward is something we call equanimity. Kind of a fancy word, but we need to be careful with that word because it can sound cold and distant, detached, as if the goal is to just stop caring about things. And that's not it, not at all. Equanimity is not distance, it's depth. The ancient Stoics had a related idea. Epictetus, a Roman philosopher who was actually born a slave and knew something about being at the mercy of conditions beyond his control, taught that there are really only 2 categories in human life: what is up to us and what is not. The 8 worldly winds are, for the most part, not up to us. Gain arrives and loss follows. Praise comes and then blame. Fame flickers and fades. These are not in our hands. What is in our hands is where we stand while all of that is happening. How deep the roots go. How steady the center. There's a poem I'd like to recommend you look up. We heard a few lines of this last week, but the whole poem is worth a look. It's by Kentucky farmer and poet Wendell Berry. The poem is titled The Peace of Wild Things. It's a short poem, 2 minutes, maybe 3. He writes about waking in the night full of worry for his life and his children's lives, and going out in the darkness to lie by the water, where the wood drake rests in beauty and the stars move overhead without urgency. He finds for a time what he calls the grace of the world. I'd encourage you to look it up this week and read it slowly. It knows something about where to find steady ground that is worth sitting with. So now I'd like you to imagine a large oak tree, an old oak maybe, the kind that has been standing in the same place for 100 years, that has watched 3 or 4 generations of a family come and go. It's autumn. The sky is that particular blue that only October can quite manage. The light is gold and low. And the wind is up today, a real wind, the kind that has something to say. Just watch that tree. The upper branches are moving freely, some of them swaying with some real drama, reaching one way then the other, dipping and recovering. Leaves spiral away by the handful. There's quite an impressive amount of motion up there. Now let your attention travel downward, down through the upper branches into the lower ones, which are moving more slowly now. Down through the thick trunk, which is barely moving at all. Just a faint tremor of the way a large animal breathes. down to where the roots emerge above the soil before they disappear into the earth. And now follow those roots down into the dark, spreading wide in every direction, going deep, moving through layers of soil and clay and stone, anchoring into something that the wind up above has no idea is even there. The branches are still moving. The wind is still blowing. The roots have not moved at all. This tree has been through worse storms than this one, much worse. It has bent dramatically, lost branches it grew for years, rattled down to its last few leaves in a November gale. And every single time, the roots held and the tree remained. Equanimity is not stillness throughout. It's stillness at the center. It's the roots that allow the branches to move freely without fear because they know what's handling them, holding them. Breathing in, I feel my roots. Breathing out, I let the branches move. In the 10 minutes or so we've been sitting, your mind may have drifted off somewhere into this week's errands or some conversation you're still turning over. And that happens. That's perfectly fine. That's just the nature of the mind. Always tugging at the string like a kite that wants to go somewhere. Just gently bring it back. Back to the tree. Back to the roots. Back to the breath. So, how does it actually feel when one of the 8 winds arrives? When gain shows up, a compliment, a success, something you've worked for finally coming through, well, there's a lift, a brightness. You feel it in your chest, and that's real. There's nothing wrong with that. But notice what often follows just a few seconds behind. A faint tightening, a wish for it to last, a quiet anxiety that might be taken back. And when loss comes, an ending, a criticism, a day when you feel like you've gone completely invisible in a crowded room, well, there's a wait. Sometimes a long, slow echo of it that follows you for days. The winds themselves are neutral. It's our relationship to them, clinging to the pleasant ones, bracing against the painful ones, that creates most of our trouble. The practice is, very gradually and very imperfectly, and probably over quite a long time, learning to receive what comes, feel it fully, and then let it pass. Not because we're trying to be unmoved, but because we've discovered something underneath all that coming and going that is sturdier than we thought. We've all been around long enough to have weathered a few of the harder winds. You've already survived every difficult thing that has happened to you. Every one. Sometimes the losses may have seemed unsurvivable. The seasons when praise went completely quiet, the moments of obscurity that felt like they might be permanent. You came through all of it. That's not a small thing. That's evidence. Evidence of roots that go considerably deeper than you probably give yourself credit for. Let's settle back into stillness for one more picture. I'd like you to imagine a mountain lake. Doesn't have to be any particular one, just the idea of it. A body of water set among hills or low mountains, far enough from anywhere that it's quiet. Quiet, but it's a windy day. You can see the surface of the lake moving, small waves, ripples catching the light. The reflection of the sky broken and shifting. The 8 worldly winds are up there on the surface, doing exactly what they always do. And now in your imagination, let yourself begin to drift downward. Not with any urgency, just slowly, gently, the way a leaf settles through still air. Down below the surface of the lake, down through the first few feet of water where the ripples from above are still a little bit noticeable. And then down further, 10 feet, maybe 20. The motion from the surface is becoming something you're barely aware of, just a faint suggestion, a distant conversation in another room. And then deeper still until you reach the bottom of the lake, the cold, quiet, unhurried bottom. Down here, the water is completely still. Not frozen and not empty, but alive and present, but utterly undisturbed by everything happening above. Oh, the winds are still blowing up there, the surface is still moving, but none of it reaches here. That depth is in you, and it always has been. The 8 winds, gain and loss, praise and blame, pleasure and pain, fame and obscurity, they move the surface. They always will, that's what winds do. But you are also the depth, that still quiet place where the weather of any given day simply cannot reach. Breathing in, I sink to the quiet within. Breathing out, I let the surface do what it does. The 8 worldly winds are going to blow today, they always do. Some of what comes your way today will be pleasant, and some will probably sting. And some may arrive without any warning, as these things tend to do. That's not a problem to be solved, that's just the world being the world. You have roots that go deeper than today's weather. You have depths that the surface winds cannot reach. Just a few affirmations before we close. You don't need to hold on to them, just let them move through you the way water moves through deep, quiet places. We'll do just 3 today. I am rooted deeply, enough to bend without breaking. My steadiness does not depend on which way the wind is blowing today. I have survived every one of my hard seasons, and that is not nothing. In fact, that is everything. Let those settle where they will. Just roll them around in your mind. And then let's begin our journey back. Bring a bit of gentle movement back to the body. Maybe noting the sounds in the room you're in and beyond. And when you're ready, there's no hurry at all, but let your eyes open again and let the light back in. And thanks for sharing this time with me. Thanks for sitting still long enough to feel your roots. The winds will come today. They always do. But you know now what is holding you, and I think that's worth something. Take care. Namaste.